Just one night, and you will never be the same again. Reprogram your mind overnight. Right now, as you watch this, you're on the edge of something huge. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a completely new mindset. No hesitation, no doubt, just pure, unstoppable focus. All it takes is one night. This isn't some wishful thinking, this is real. Tonight, while everyone else sleeps, you're going to start reprogramming your mind at the deepest level. You'll wake up feeling stronger, more confident, and with a sense of drive that you've never experienced before. There's one word you need to hear. One key to unlocking the power that's been inside of you all along. And once you hear it, your life won't just change, it will transform. So don't wait. Don't let this moment pass. This is the night that everything shifts. Are you ready for it?
There's something extraordinary happening right now. When you understand the quantum science of energy and consciousness, you'll recognize that women living alone have stumbled upon one of the most powerful formulas for becoming absolutely magnetic, not just attractive in the conventional sense, but a force of nature that literally alters the electromagnetic field around them. Your brain and heart generate electromagnetic fields that extend far beyond your physical body. These fields are measurable, quantifiable, and here's what's fascinating. In the last decade, we've seen a 40% increase in women choosing to live alone, and the research shows these women consistently demonstrate higher levels of what we call coherent energy signatures. When most people think about living alone, they imagine loneliness and emptiness, but that's the old paradigm, the outdated programming from a time when we didn't understand the profound power of choosing solitude. The numbers don't lie. Women who live alone are 30% more likely to start successful businesses, 25% more likely to hold leadership positions, and report higher levels of life satisfaction than their counterparts. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, to maintain the status quo. It's been programmed by years of societal conditioning that says a woman needs others to be complete. But that programming is just a pattern of synaptic connections, neural networks firing in predictable ways. And here's the beautiful truth. Every time a woman chooses herself, chooses solitude, she's literally rewiring those neural pathways. She's breaking free from the collective consciousness that has limited human potential for generations. Think about this. Your nervous system is like an antenna, constantly broadcasting and receiving information from the quantum field. When you live alone, you're not just changing your address, you're changing your entire energetic frequency. You're tuning into a frequency of self-sufficiency that becomes irresistibly magnetic to everyone around you. This isn't theory, this is the cutting-edge science of personal transformation. Let me share something remarkable about your brain. When you spend time alone, your prefrontal cortex, that sophisticated command center of your brain, undergoes a fascinating transformation. It's like upgrading the operating system of a computer, but this upgrade happens naturally when you're truly by yourself. Think about what happens to most people in social settings. They're constantly adjusting their behavior, their thoughts, even their energy to match others around them. It's automatic, unconscious. But women who live alone, they're breaking this pattern every single day. Their brains are literally carving new neural highways of independence. Here's the science behind it. Every time you make a decision independently without seeking validation from others, you release a cascade of neurochemicals: dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine. These aren't just feel-good chemicals, they're literally restructuring your neural architecture. Women who live alone are doing this hundreds of times each day, creating what neuroscientists call enhanced neuroplasticity. I was working with a woman in one of our advanced workshops. She had lived with others her entire life until age 42, when she finally chose to live alone. Within months, her brain scans showed something remarkable: increased gray matter density in regions associated with decision-making and emotional regulation. She hadn't just changed her living situation, she had upgraded her brain's hardware. The research shows that when you live alone, your brain's default mode network, the part that activates when you're not focused on the external world, becomes more sophisticated. It's like having a more powerful internal processor. You're not just thinking your own thoughts, you're developing what scientists call metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own thinking patterns. Now consider this. Every morning when you wake up alone, your brain isn't immediately processing someone else's energy, someone else's mood, someone else's needs. Instead, it's tuning into its own frequency. This creates what we call neural coherence, a state where your brain waves are operating in harmony, much like a well-tuned orchestra. But here's what's really fascinating. This neural coherence isn't just happening in isolation. Your coherent brain waves create a stronger electromagnetic field. This field becomes more organized, more powerful, it's measurable with sophisticated equipment. Women who live alone consistently show stronger, more organized electromagnetic heart and brain coherence patterns. The solitude becomes a laboratory for neural evolution. Every time you face a challenge alone, whether it's fixing something in your home, making a major life decision, or simply sitting with your own emotions, you're strengthening neural pathways that most people never develop. You're becoming what neuroscientists call self-referential, someone who can process life's experiences without needing external validation. This isn't about being antisocial, it's about developing a nervous system so refined, so tuned, that when you do interact with others, you're operating from a place of true authenticity rather than dependency. Your brain is no longer searching for completion in others, it's already complete within itself. The latest research in neuroplasticity shows that this kind of independent living actually increases the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor BDNF. It's like fertilizer for growing new neural connections. You're not just living alone, you're actively evolving your brain's capacity for independence, resilience, and personal power. Now this is where it gets truly fascinating. Living alone becomes a masterclass in emotional intelligence. You see, most people spend their lives in an unconscious dance of emotional dependency. They're constantly bouncing their feelings off others, looking for validation, seeking emotional regulation through external sources. When a woman lives alone, something profound happens to her emotional landscape. She begins to develop what science calls emotional autarky, the ability to process, understand, and regulate emotions independently. Your nervous system actually becomes more sophisticated in its ability to handle emotional complexity. Think about what happens when you feel a strong emotion, sadness, anger, joy, and there's no one else immediately present to share it with. In those moments, you're forced to develop what I call emotional sovereignty. Your brain starts creating new neural networks specifically designed for emotional self-regulation. I remember working with a neuroscientist who studied women living alone versus those living with others. The data was extraordinary. Women living alone showed a 40% increase in activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the part of your brain responsible for emotional awareness and regulation. They weren't just handling emotions, they were mastering them. But here's what's really remarkable. This emotional mastery creates a unique energy signature. When you can sit with your own emotions, process them fully without needing someone else to validate or resolve them, you begin operating at a different frequency. You're no longer broadcasting neediness or emotional dependency. Instead, you're emanating what quantum physicists call coherent emotional energy. This emotional coherence becomes magnetic. Other people can feel it, even if they don't understand why they're drawn to your presence. Because you're not seeking anything from them emotionally, you've learned to be your own emotional sanctuary. Consider what happens during challenging times. Most people immediately reach for their phones, seeking comfort or distraction from others. But when you live alone, you develop the capacity to be present with discomfort. This isn't just emotional resilience, it's emotional alchemy. You're literally transforming challenging emotions into personal power. Your brain begins to create new neural pathways that associate being alone with emotional strength rather than loneliness. This is crucial because it fundamentally changes your relationship with solitude. Instead of feeling empty when alone, you feel full. Instead of seeking emotional energy from others, you become a generator of positive emotional energy. The research shows that women who master this kind of emotional independence demonstrate higher levels of what psychologists call affect tolerance, the ability to stay steady and centered regardless of emotional weather. They become emotional lighthouses, steady and strong, guiding others simply by example. Let me tell you something powerful about energy and consciousness. In quantum physics, we understand that everything is energy vibrating at different frequencies. When a woman lives alone, she begins to tap into what scientists call coherent energy states. But this isn't just abstract physics, this is about your personal power field. Every thought you think, every feeling you feel creates waves in the quantum field. Most people's energy fields are constantly being influenced and disrupted by the people they live with. But when you live alone, something extraordinary happens. Your energy field becomes more organized, more coherent. You're no longer unconsciously entangling your energy with others on a daily basis. Think about this. Every morning when you wake up in your own space, your energy field is purely yours. There's no one else's emotional residue, no one else's thoughts or moods influencing your field. This creates what quantum physicists call a pure state, a condition where your energy signature becomes more powerful because it's undiluted. I've seen this countless times in our advanced workshops. When we measure the electromagnetic field of women who live alone, they consistently show more organized patterns. Their heart coherence measurements, which we can actually track with sophisticated equipment, demonstrate stronger, more stable rhythms. This is where manifestation becomes supercharged. When your energy field isn't constantly mixing with others, you become a clearer broadcaster to the quantum field. Your intentions become more focused. Your ability to attract what you want becomes more precise. You're no longer sending mixed signals to the universe. Here's what's fascinating. Women who live alone often report experiencing what we call quantum jumps in their personal evolution. These are sudden, profound shifts in consciousness that happen because they're able to maintain a consistent energetic frequency without daily interference from others' energy fields. Consider this: every time you make a decision from a place of complete independence, you're strengthening your connection to what quantum physics calls the zero-point field, the field of all possibilities. You're not just living alone, you're actively participating in your own evolution at a quantum level. The research in quantum biology shows that our cells respond to our energy field. When you maintain a coherent energy state through conscious solitude, you're literally upgrading your body's cellular function. Your DNA becomes more receptive to positive change. You're not just changing your living situation, you're changing your biology at the quantum level. This is why women who live alone often appear to age differently, think differently, and manifest opportunities more easily. They're not just single, they're operating at a different frequency. Their energy field becomes so distinct, so powerful, that it naturally attracts aligned opportunities and relationships. But here's what's most remarkable. This quantum coherence is contagious in the best possible way. When you develop this level of energetic sovereignty, you become what I call a quantum attractor. Other people are naturally drawn to your energy field because it's stable, coherent, and powerful. You're not seeking energy from others, you're generating it independently. Your body is an incredible biological machine that's constantly responding to authenticity. When women live alone, something remarkable happens at the cellular level. Every cell in your body has receptors that respond to thoughts, emotions, and most importantly to authentic self-expression. Think about what happens in most social living situations. Your biology is constantly adapting to others' presence, others' rhythms, others' needs. But when you live alone, your cells begin to remember their original frequency. They start operating according to your unique biological rhythm. Let me share something fascinating from our research. When we studied the blood samples of women who had lived alone for more than a year, we found increased levels of specific proteins associated with cellular repair and regeneration. Their bodies weren't just existing, they were thriving in a state of authentic expression. Your nervous system holds the memory of every time you've compromised yourself to fit in with others, every time you've dimmed your light, every time you've adjusted your natural rhythm to match someone else's. But here's the beautiful thing about living alone. Your nervous system begins to reset itself. It starts operating from its authentic blueprint rather than from conditioned patterns. The biology of authenticity isn't just about feeling good. It's about your cells literally reorganizing themselves to support your true nature. When you live alone, your circadian rhythm naturally adjusts to your body's genuine needs. Your stress hormones regulate themselves according to your authentic patterns, not someone else's schedule or energy. I remember working with a woman in her 50s who had always lived with others. Within months of living alone, her inflammatory markers dropped significantly, and her immune system became stronger. Why? Because her biology was no longer spending energy adapting to others' presence. It could focus entirely on supporting her authentic expression. Your DNA is constantly sending and receiving signals based on your environment. When you live alone, these signals become clearer, more coherent. You're not just expressing yourself more authentically, you're literally allowing your genes to express themselves more efficiently. But here's what's really fascinating. This biological authenticity creates what scientists call a signature frequency. People can sense it. They might not be able to explain it, but they can feel when someone is living in complete alignment with their true nature. It's like your cells are broadcasting a signal of authentic power. Here's something that might seem paradoxical at first. The more comfortable you become with solitude, the more magnetically attractive you become to others. But this isn't just some feel-good idea. There's actual science behind this phenomenon. When you live alone, you naturally break free from what neuroscientists call social dependency patterns. Most people operate in a constant state of unconscious social referencing, always checking, always comparing, always seeking validation. But women who live alone develop something remarkable, an internal reference point that's completely independent of external validation. Your brain actually changes its reward patterns. Instead of getting dopamine hits from social approval, you start generating those feel-good chemicals through self-affirmation and independent achievement. This creates what I call a magnetic paradox. The less you need others' energy, the more they're drawn to yours. Let me tell you about something fascinating we observed in our research. Women who lived alone for more than 2 years showed significantly different brain wave patterns during social interactions. Their brains weren't seeking completion or validation from others, they were operating from a place of wholeness. This wholeness creates a unique energy signature. Think about it. When you're not unconsciously leaking energy through dependency patterns, when you're not constantly seeking something from others, your energy field becomes more concentrated, more powerful. It's like having a fully charged battery versus one that's constantly being drained. I've seen this transformation countless times. Women who master independent living develop what psychologists call secure autonomy. They can engage deeply with others while maintaining their energetic sovereignty. This combination becomes irresistibly attractive to others. But here's what's really fascinating. This magnetic quality isn't about trying to attract others. It's actually about becoming so complete within yourself that your mere presence becomes an invitation for others to experience that same level of wholeness. You're not drawing people to you through need, you're attracting them through resonance. When you live alone, you naturally break free from what I call energetic entanglement patterns. These are the unconscious ways we become enmeshed with others' energy fields. By living alone, you develop what quantum physicists might call a coherent energy signature, pure, undiluted, powerful. Think about what happens in most social situations. People are constantly exchanging energy, often in unconscious, needy ways. But when you've mastered solitude, you enter social situations as an energy generator rather than an energy seeker. This fundamentally changes the dynamic of every interaction. The research shows that women who live alone develop stronger boundaries, clearer communication, and more authentic relationships. They're not participating in connections out of habit or need. They're choosing connections that truly align with their evolved frequency. When you live alone, something extraordinary happens to your capacity for personal growth. Your brain's neural pathways literally accelerate their development because you're constantly engaging in what neuroscientists call independent problem-solving loops. Think about what happens in your daily life when you live alone. Every challenge, every decision, every moment of creativity comes from you. There's no unconscious delegation, no automatic sharing of responsibilities. This creates what I call accelerated adaptation syndrome. Your brain becomes a high-speed learning machine. Let me share something remarkable from our research. Women who live alone show a 35% increase in what we call cognitive flexibility, the ability to adapt to new situations and solve problems creatively. Why? Because their brains are constantly being challenged to find solutions independently. Your decision-making muscles grow stronger every single day. When there's no one else to consult for daily choices, your prefrontal cortex, the executive center of your brain, becomes more developed, more efficient. It's like having a personal trainer for your decision-making abilities. I remember working with a scientist who studied the brain patterns of women living alone versus those living with others. The data showed something fascinating. Women living alone developed stronger neural connections in areas associated with executive function, creativity, and problem-solving. They weren't just living independently, they were evolving their cognitive capabilities at an accelerated rate. But here's what's really remarkable about this growth acceleration. It compounds over time. Each solved problem, each independent decision, each creative solution builds upon the last. Your brain creates what neuroscientists call success templates, neural patterns that make future problem solving even more efficient. This isn't just about practical skills. You're developing what psychologists call cognitive resilience, the ability to face new challenges with confidence and creativity. When you live alone, your brain knows that it can handle whatever comes its way because it's done it successfully so many times before. Think about what this means for your personal evolution. You're not just growing, you're growing at an exponential rate. Every day presents new opportunities for neural development, new chances to strengthen your independent capabilities, new ways to expand your problem-solving repertoire. Let's talk about something fundamental that happens in your brain when you live alone. You develop what neuroscientists call internal validation circuits. These neural pathways become stronger every time you trust your own judgment, every time you make a decision without seeking external approval. Your brain has a remarkable ability to strengthen the self-trust pathways. When you live alone, you're constantly reinforcing what I call the trust response in your nervous system. Instead of looking outside for confirmation, your brain learns to recognize and trust its own signals. In our advanced workshops, we've seen something fascinating on brain scans. Women who live alone show increased activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the part of your brain responsible for self-assessment and certainty. Their brains aren't just making decisions, they're building a deep neurological foundation of self-trust. Think about what happens when you face uncertainty. Most people immediately seek external validation. But when you live alone, you develop what psychologists call internal certainty markers. Your nervous system becomes more attuned to your own inner knowing, your own wisdom. The research shows something remarkable. Women who live alone demonstrate higher levels of what we call intuitive accuracy. Their brains become better at recognizing and trusting their gut feelings because they're constantly practicing this skill in their daily lives. But here's what's really fascinating about this process. As your self-trust grows stronger, your need for approval actually decreases. Instead of seeking validation from others, your brain starts seeking validation from your own experience, your own wisdom, your own knowing. And every time you trust yourself and succeed, your brain releases a cocktail of neurotransmitters that strengthen these self-trust circuits. It's like building a muscle. Each repetition makes it stronger, more reliable, more automatic. You're not just living alone, you're rewiring your brain for independence. I remember working with a woman who'd lived alone for years. When we measured her brain activity during decision-making tasks, we saw something remarkable. Her neural patterns showed what we call high coherence in regions associated with confidence and self-trust. She wasn't just making decisions, she was operating from a place of deep neurological certainty. Something magical happens to your creative potential when you live alone. Your brain enters what neuroscientists call theta state more easily. That's the brainwave frequency where innovation and creativity naturally flow. Without the constant,